What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Friday edition of The Slate, helping you wrap up the work week, at least if you work traditional weekdays. If you're working into the weekend, good on you, but I hope you have plenty of time to get those NFL bets in. Adam Kaufman, Matt LaMarca, Jeff Ulrich here hanging out with you. We got Eamon and Daniel behind the scenes as well. We thank you for being with us, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you are finding us. And guys, we will naturally spend the vast majority of this show on Sunday, looking ahead both at the DraftKings Millionaire Contest as well as DraftKings Sportsbook and what we should be considering with this main slate on Sunday that is now less than 48 hours away. But first, I want to say hi, but I also want to reflect on what we saw last night, which was not a great game. No surprise there. Tennessee winning in Green Bay, though. That maybe surprised some people. Not this wild upset or anything, but surprised maybe some people. But I think what's most notable is Gary and Thorne was here with me yesterday. We broke down many, many facets of this game. And once again, the primetime Thursday game, I feel like we got just about everything wrong.
Yeah, the general consensus was the Titans were going to be able to run the ball all over the Packers. And the Titans haven't been able to stop the pass all year. So Aaron Rodgers should have a good game against their secondary. And of course, it was Ryan Tannehill who had the good performance. As for like the actual outcome of the game, I had very minimal interest in the Packers once the line got to 3.5 points. When it was below 3, though, I thought that they were the correct side. So the Sharps like the Packers. So yes, I do think that it was a somewhat surprising result. You kind of thought that the Packers had figured things out last week. You know, it was going to be Christian Watson was going to help them make the difference. And, you know, he had that one very nice touchdown catch at the beginning of the game, but then he was kind of invisible until the fourth quarter in garbage time. So overall, I think that, you know, we can kind of cross the Packers out at this point. It's going to be very tough for them to make the playoffs.
Sitting at 4-7 now. Jeff, what about you? What were the main takeaways from that game other than Derrick Henry, who Garion thought could go for 200 yards in that game, doesn't even go for 100?
I'm not really that shocked that the Packers stopped Derrick Henry, but like, you can't let Ryan Tannehill throw for 333 yards. I mean, the Packers defense, it's not there this year. I mean, I don't honestly, of the most shocking results in the NFL, it's not even the Packers offense that shocks me. It's like how bad their defense has been. This was a good defensive team last year. They drafted more help. Jari Alexander is supposedly like the best defender in the secondary. Like, what has happened? It's really, really strange, to be honest. I think it's more of the Packers story than people realize here. So I'm agree. Like, this was the spot. And to be honest, I like the Packers here too, but I stayed off the spot because I just figured, if the Packers win, absolutely, we could go on a run here. But like, I didn't want to buy back into a team that's just kind of hasn't showed it. So sit back and wait spot, did a few props, and I'm ready to I'm done with the Packers here as well. I think Christian Watson probably going to be a good fantasy producer. Maybe you chase him in DFS down the stretch. I'm sure him and Rodgers will connect, but like this team doesn't have it defensively, man, to make a run. Like you can't, if you can't stop Ryan Tannehill at home in a must-win game, like you're not going anywhere. So yeah, sucks. Packers, you're pretty much done. You got Watson to look forward to next year. Who knows what Aaron Rodgers will do? I'm sure that'll be another offseason story. But I think the real story here is actually the Titans, who like they look pretty good again. And I'm kind of ready to almost get sucked in on them as like a potential dark horse who can make a run. I thought they might make a run last year, but this team is always live to me just because of the way the way they operate with Mike Vrabel and their defense. If they play at this level, their defensive front and their secondary is just okay, they got a shot against anyone. So
what's great about the Titans is what you're getting every single week. And that is just so not the case with like basically every other team in the league. They're going to show up, they're going to give the ball to Derrick Henry nearly 30 times, and they're going to play defense. And if you commit to stopping Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill can make some plays with his arm. Like, yeah, they're very dependable. They have a head coach that they have adopted his identity, and that has value. I don't know if they have, Super Bowl upside. I would say no, but they're a team that in a weak division, yeah, they're going to win it most years.
And the thing is, like under Vrabel, here's the thing about Titans. they could show up against the Texans and legitimately lose because the Texans shut down Derrick Henry and then Ryan Tannehill just has a bad game. They could also go on the road like they've done numerous times and beat high-level teams because other team just Derrick Henry starts to get going or Ryan Tannehill pulls a good game. Like you said, they've run the same offense basically for like 3 years, 4 years. Vrabel's defenses are always built the same, really tough to run on, weak in the secondary, but like they're actually not even playing that bad right now. So yeah, they're not what you call an elite team, but they can beat anyone on any day, which
what is it's 7 of 8 now, with their loss being with Malik Willis in overtime to the Chiefs.
Yeah, to the Chiefs, exactly, right? Yeah. So yeah.
So Jeff, when you say the Titans are live, are you talking about winning the division, or do you actually consider?
I'm talking about going to the Super Bowl, man. I mean, this is a team.
DraftKings Sportsbook, they're plus 2,800 right now, which is, I mean, obviously nowhere near the top.
This isn't even me saying that like they're like a top 3 team. I'm just saying they're live because they have a formula that they can win games and they can kind of beat anyone with, but it's very variable. They can also do what they did last year, which is go into their first playoff game and just get completely,
that was really a shame.
Yeah. So they're very up and down. They've got, they're just basically the Titans, which they've been the last couple of years. If you remember back 3 years ago, when the Ravens had like that incredible regular season, they were like 12-point favorites over the Titans. Yeah. No one was giving them a chance. And they just destroyed the Ravens. Like that game wasn't even close. And then they went and just about beat the Chiefs that year, I think. So right, it's a team, like I said, like it's still there. They're very live, I think. I mean, it's the NFL, anything can happen. We saw what the Bengals did last year, man. No one was picking the Bengals at the start of the playoffs either. So yeah.
So as we'll I guess before we transition to the main slate, just thinking about a couple of specific players last night. You've talked a lot about Watson already, and one of the big things we talked about on the show yesterday is like he can't repeat what he just did, right? With that otherworldly performance. And he didn't, obviously he didn't have 3 touchdowns. He had 2. He didn't have 100 yards. He had, 45 or whatever it was. But, he still had a very solid game. Meanwhile, you had Treylon Burks off the IR and he's, continuing to get more comfortable, goes for a third of Tannehill's yards. He's targeted 8 times, has 7 catches. So are these guys that you would be, as you put it before, Jeff, thinking about chasing down the stretch here for DFS, or obviously some of the leagues that, for playoffs that are coming for season long for people, guys that these are a couple of guys that are probably out there for, for pickup in deeper fantasy leagues. Are these guys that you think that highly of, or with these kind of one-off performances?
No, I mean, Treylon Burks, I think Watson's gone. Like if you're in any kind of sharp league, I mean, Watson's gone. Like it's you're done.
I spent 75% of my budget on Watson last week.
Yeah.
So yeah,
which
he's gone.
I forgot to set my waivers, so I'm just done. But anyways, Treylon Burks might still be out there. And that's a dude I could definitely get behind. He's got really good after the catch ability. We saw when he was early in the year, pretty good depth of target as well. You can, and the thing about Treylon Burks is you could potentially get him in a trade too. So I think Watson is good luck, but Treylon Burks is a dude I would be going out to get. That's probably your target right now. Potential late year push, definitely was trending like in the right direction, just being this team's like head target kind of, and just way better after the catchability than anyone else there. So yeah, I mean, again, if you're in some kind of league where everyone forgot Christian Watson existed, great, but yeah, I expect both these guys to do well down the stretch. I really do.
Well, Marka?
Yeah, I think Burks is more like a fringe wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 type of guy for me. His final numbers look really good, but don't forget that, 50 some odd of them came on the last play of the game, or the last real play of the game when no one was expecting the Titans to throw the ball. And Ryan Tannehill threw for about 150 more yards in that game than he normally does. So I do think that there's a formula where he becomes the team's top receiver. I just don't know how valuable that role has been. Like Robert Woods has not provided any value in that role. So I do think Treylon Burks has more upside. He might be a better player at this point than Robert Woods, but I'm cautiously optimistic about it.
Our guy Eamon, our producer, he just told us in our chat that he grabbed Watson at 8:00 last night. He was available, got him, threw him in there on a hunch, and obviously it paid off.
What a terrible league.
Well, that's a whole other conversation in and of itself. But yeah, all right. Well, let's take a look here at obviously the main slate. That's everybody's focus, and it doesn't matter at this point in time what bets you didn't make. It matters what bets you can make going forward. And let me just get our lines and everything up for us on the DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, so as far as I always like to look at the bigger spreads, you got the Bills Browns game. I just think is interesting because obviously it has moved in a lot of different ways. The total has skyrocketed to 49.5. The Bills are 7.5 point favorites. The reason in part is obviously this thing is now happening in a dome in Detroit as opposed to in 6 feet of snow in Buffalo, to which part of me, LaMarcus, says cowards. Like, I want to see this. I want to watch this game happen in all that snow. Like, get the snow plows and snow throwers and everything out there, clean up the field, and let's go. Let's do football in November. This would be fun. But, whatever. They've moved it, makes it a much easier game to handicap, I would think, because now there are no elements to consider whatsoever. But what's the outlook on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I can just imagine, like, if they had to close that game from Buffalo for Bills fan safety. Like, they would have still shown up in droves. They would have been doing all this dumb stuff they normally do, but they would have been doing it in 6 feet of snow.
Yeah,
so
getting hurt breaking a table in a pile of snow.
They'll find a way, trust me. I think that this game, before we actually get into any analysis of the game, I just want to talk about why it's important to know the rules of your sports book. So DraftKings Sportsbook is one of the few that will not void a bet when a game changes stadiums as long as the home team remains the home team. So a lot of really sharp people that I know were hammering the over, specifically on DraftKings, when it fell to 41 because there were rumors that this game would move to Detroit. So if you are aware of rules like that, there are very good opportunities to take advantage of in the sports book. So with that said, I do think this game being in Detroit should be a benefit for the Bills, right? I mean, they have an explosive offense. The Browns ranked 31st in defensive DVOA. It's hard to imagine a scenario where Cleveland is really able to slow them down. So I do think it's a good spot for the Bills to get back on track.
Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, great point by LaMarca. I mean, yeah, this is why you trade futures in NFL and stuff like that on game lines, and you pay attention to injury report and things that are going on. I didn't actually think they changed the venue. I know there was rumors about it, but I was actually surprised they did. It just doesn't happen that often. But again, it is what it is.
6 feet of snow doesn't happen very often, Jeff.
No, it's true. It's true. It wasn't just like blustery conditions. It was the amount of snow. But anyways, the complexion of this game has completely changed. I really thought the Browns, when they were +8, and were just a fantastic bet when the game was going to be in Buffalo, because I mean, again, we saw terrible conditions the Bills played in. You guys have already alluded to this. Like, the Bills are actually a dome team. I mean, they're a downfield passing team. They have Gabe Davis. They have Diggs. Like, they have Josh Allen getting outside the pocket with a rocket arm. Like, they want to play in controlled conditions. So they don't really have the horses to necessarily play like those tough running games. I don't think that's what they want to do anyways under Sean McDermott. So this hurts the Browns. I mean, yeah, I would almost like jump on the Bills. I'm actually surprised that this line has gone down. Like the line's gotten closer. So
yeah,
because of the dome now. But yeah, it is what it is. The over's at 49.5. This is one where I'm just going to look at some props as well. Like, good Jacoby Brissett for an over prop is interesting. I think some of the Cleveland pass catchers like Donovan Peoples-Jones here is probably interesting. But I'm not going to touch the line now. Either you got the opportunity or you didn't. Definitely not going to touch the total.
Well, and obviously when you're thinking about DFS and building out lineups, not that anybody was starting to do that on Thursday necessarily, but just sort of thinking ahead to the options that are out there, like Josh Allen all of a sudden becomes, at least in terms of point projections that I'm looking at, becomes the highest projected scorer on the slate at about 27 points, which is a solid 3.5 more than Justin Fields, who, as we know, has been rock solid of late. And the top wide receiver play and a top 5 play, the best non-quarterback play, is Stephon Diggs. So again, to what degree should we be expecting these two to just absolutely go off in that dome and make them, not must rosters necessarily, but especially in cash games, guys that we're going to see heavily rostered.
I don't even think it's like the dome matters all that much. It's just that this is what these guys have done all year, right? Josh Allen has scored at least 24 and a half DraftKings points in every game but one this season. Stephon Diggs has scored at least 28 DraftKings points in 4 out of his last 5. And the exception was, I'm pretty sure, against Sauce Gardner, who was just the absolute
He good.
Yeah, good.
But I suppose my point, Lamarca, is you wouldn't be expecting to see those numbers if that game was out there in the snow.
Yeah, of course, but it's not. So it's like I'm just saying, like, if the narrative is now like, oh, these guys are this good, now let's put them in a dome. Like, I'm not giving them any extra points because they're playing in a dome.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair.
As long as it's not chaos, like they're going to go off. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. They're going to do well. I think it's an interesting week to get on the Gabe Davis train potentially for DFS.
Baby. I love it.
That's always a good, contrarian move. We saw him absolutely go nuts in a week previous where he was like 4% owned and everyone was on Diggs. So that's the one thing I'd probably think about this week. I think it's a really good setup for him. Denzel Ward probably going to be on Diggs anyways. And so, that's one way.
5%, by the way.
Okay. And then on the other side, like Donovan Peoples-Jones been really consistent this year. He feels like he's just overdue here for just with the targeting and the ADOT that he's been getting for a potential breakout game. Could happen here. Again, this is going to be way different, obviously, than we were projecting before. So those are two guys, two good contrarian moves, I think, for DFS that you could be targeting.
When just stay with DFS for a moment, when we're talking about the QBs, I mean, Allen's going to be popular. He's certainly, again, looking at the projections, going to be one of the most popular. But Fields, I remember we were having this conversation last week and he was coming off what was it? Let's pull him up here. He was coming off a 40 some odd point game and 45.72 points against Miami. And it was, well, he can't do that again though. He's good. You should roster him, but he's not going to do that again. He goes for 44 points against the Lions. So, I mean, just how locked in is this guy? What do you expect from him this time out against Atlanta in this game? Again, a game that is in a dome, no elements whatsoever. I know that's not an end all be all, but it's nice when you don't have to worry about that, obviously, as a quarterback.
I mean, one of the themes of the season has just been the chalk just teeing off on basically a weekly basis, with Justin Fields last week being the most recent example. He's been priced up pretty aggressively. He's 7,600. He's still not doing very much with his arm. And I think he's a regression candidate with his legs, right? Like, he's not going to average 12 yards a carry, no matter how good of a runner he is, right? So I think that you add up the potential ownership, the regression with the legs, the already lackluster production with the arm. And to me, even in a good matchup, it's just a spot that I don't want a ton of involvement with.
Jeff?
Yeah, no, I actually think that using Mariota on the other side is interesting. The price difference here is just so great that, again, like I could see these two guys both scoring like 22 points. I don't think it's that outlandish. And I mean, I do think Fields in this game, there's ever a spot for him to kind of get off as a passer and go for like 250 and a couple touchdowns and then maybe just like he sneaks one in too. That's kind of the way I could see him going off in this game. But you're still like, that's, now we're paying 7,600 and we think that, okay, like the legs might regress. It's not really a spot I necessarily want to be betting on. I also think that like on this slate, you're looking at the guys below him. I love the spot for Dak Prescott. Like it for Joe Burrow as well. I mentioned Mariota, I think actually has some potential. So I just also like the fact that there's pretty solid options like under Fields. If he was the same price as Burrow or Prescott, I'd probably say just play Fields again. But because now that he's up there, I'd be okay. Like like LaMarcus said, basically just playing for just like a smidgen of regression this week. And then you can play the cheaper quarterbacks down who are both in really good spots, in my opinion.
Or just
Top
pay
QB.
$900 more and get Josh Allen. Right? Like
Right.
we're talking less than $1,000
Right.
between Justin Fields and the best fantasy quarterback in the league.
For some reason I had like the top 3 guys like out of my screen, and I just had Fields as the most expensive. So I forgot that like Jalen Hurts is on the slate and Josh Allen.
Yep.
So yeah, you could just do that too. Yeah, play Josh Allen.
Top projected ownership for quarterbacks right now. Fields at about 13%, Allen 11%. Then you have a pretty steep decline. You get to Dak, who obviously Jeff was just talking about it, about 8, and the list goes on from there. Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones expected to be pretty popular. Russell Wilson as well, who I don't know about you guys. I just have trouble trusting him. I know it's like, for, again, season long, which isn't our main focus, but for people who need to stream a quarterback this week, Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, Daniel Jones, even, like, these are all popular guys. I can't trust Wilson right now, Jeff. It's not in me.
Why would you? Why would you want to try? I tried to make the case for Russell Wilson against Tennessee last week, and it's a disaster. No, there's no point.
He doesn't even have Jerry Jeudy this week. Like
there's points. Yeah.
There's no reason to go.
Like we don't even need to talk about it. I mean, like I said, you got Mariota down there at 5,500. The Bears have been giving up a lot of big rush games. They gave up a big rush game to Dak Prescott. Go down to Mariota.
I'd rather play Matt Ryan.
Wow. Yeah, maybe. It might be good garbage time there, to be honest. Jacoby Brissett's there too. Hate to say it. It's not a terrible play.
All right, let's shift back to the DraftKings Sportsbook. We can do more DFS before we get out of here if we want to as well. Adam Schefter just sending out some injury updates. Actually, here I'll read these to you quickly for anyone that people may have missed. The more important guys: Jamar Chase, we knew that he's on IR. Corey Davis is out. There were thoughts he could return for the Jets. Let's see. I'm just looking at the skill guys. KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, Juju Smith-Schuster was ruled out today. Mecole Hardman as well for Kansas City. So those are your bigger injuries at the moment. So what's that make you think as far as KC? Like, are we loading up on Tony?
Fire him up if you got him.
Oh yeah. Jeez, I mean, I wish he was on the main slate, although he'd probably be 1,000% owned, so it wouldn't matter. But yeah, no, big week. I mean, if you got Kadarius Toney, I mean, this is what you've been waiting for. I'm just excited because I did get some Kadarius Toney in best ball, so that really neither here nor there. But yeah, I'm just excited.
We do have a chat question, by the way. Let's see who we have: Prescott or Lamar this weekend in season long.
Yeah, man,
I can't bench Lamar.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. It's tough to bench Lamar. I do like the spot for Dak Prescott. Man.
If you care about projections, I will tell you that Lamar is at about 22.5 points and Dak is at 18.
Well, what are these projections you're throwing at us? So you're just making them up?
Yeah, from straight from my heart are the numbers that I
know.
know.
It just honestly,
Kaufmano.com.
Yeah,
you're not going to get
pretty much.
You're not going to be super disappointed if you play Lamar, but if Dak has a bad game, you're just going to feel so dumb. Just yeah. You drafted Lamar Jackson to play him every week. That's why you pay up to play Lamar Jackson.
Well, I think you just outlined it. It's basically like we have this conversation all the time when it comes to certain athletes. Which you're gonna have more trouble living with, like playing Lamar, but Dak goes off. Fine, you played Lamar, or you bench Lamar and he winds up going off like that. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Yeah,
you really wouldn't be able to sleep at night, and that's the sad thing.
No
one cares more about their season-long fantasy football league than you.
It's so true. But you know what? Having a fine year. Knock on wood that continues. Let's get back to the DraftKings Sportsbook with another, 5-6 minutes that we have left here. I always like to chase the points, obviously, when it comes to conversations between Sportsbook and DFS overlapping. So you got the 49.5 that we mentioned with the Bills and the Browns. Falcons and Bears, 49.5 point total in that game as well. You got some really low scoring ones here. Vikings and Cowboys are sitting at 48. Chiefs and Chargers obviously is 52, but that's not main slate. But what of these games do you think is most likely to hit the over and go out and get a whole bunch of points for your lineups and everything?
I'd be more inclined to just go with the Bills. I mean, the Bills are a team that routinely puts up 30 plus. It's a great spot for them. The Browns don't play defense for the most part. And I think that their Bills defense has shown some vulnerability in recent weeks. So I would have that as the over candidate for me. Certainly Bears Falcons, like both teams stink defensively, but prior to last week or 2 weeks ago, we would have said that both of these teams aren't really good on offense either.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Cowboys this week a lot. That's why I was really struggling with that question. I think the Cowboys are a great over target. 24.5 team total. It's big, but you get plus money. I think that game probably goes over just because the Vikings have Justin Jefferson on the other side. But I think the Cowboys are in a great spot here. Really high end rush offense lately with Pollard. Dak playing extremely well. You got Minnesota playing the Bills last week. It's a classic letdown spot coming home. I think Dallas is a better team here in pretty much every facet. So I think I'm probably going to shine through. Like Dallas. I think the only thing that really would hold them back is maybe just get like a classic, rug pull from Kirk Cousins. And then it's just, they win like 21-3 or something. But I think with the way Justin Jefferson and Cousins have been playing, that's pretty unlikely. I think it'll be a higher scoring game.
Moose,
I actually like the over there. I don't bet many overs these days, but that's probably one I would lean over on.
Well, so let's open it up. However you'd like to approach it, whether it's, money line, spread, total, player prop, whatever it is, what really entices you, be it a game or a specific guy this weekend?
Me or LaMarca?
You.
Me? All right. I mentioned the Cowboys.
You keep going. You were the one who was talking. Continue.
I like the Cowboys at 1.5, so I don't need to go over that more. What is I'm pretty interested in the Lions. I think the Lions can win that game outright. I really do. There's just not much between those two teams. At the very least, too. Like, I just think they're good value at 3 points. I think most people look at that game and they go, well, like, why are the Giants only 3 points, 3-point favorites at home? But these are both 2 weak rush defenses. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions have averaged over 24 points last 3 games with him back. Swift has practiced all week. I think he gets a full complement of carries here. I think the Lions could come out and really just run the ball a little bit, get some bigger plays. And then, like, their defense has actually been a little bit better over the last couple of weeks. So I think it's a spot where, like, the Lions are going to be able to move the ball on and put the Giants a bit on their heels. And, again, like, Giants coming off the big win last week, it was a bye win, but all of the Giants games they've basically just been one score. I mean, we're talking about one break here or there. I still just maintain that, they're solid. They got Dable coaching them well, but it wouldn't shock me if this team lost like 3 games in a row either. And not even because they're incompetent, just because all their games are so close. So I'm taking the points here with the Lions. I think it's a good one.
LaMarca, where are we at on your season record at this point?
Yeah, finally had a losing week. So we are now at, I can't even remember. Still very good.
Yeah. Still very good overall. Well, how are we resetting?
Me and Jeff are on the same page. The Cowboys are my favorite pick of the week. I think that they can win this game handily. The Vikings have relied on, voodoo, dark magic to sort of pull out some of these wins. I mean, the Bills had a 99.87% win expectation after that fourth down stuff last week. And the Vikings won. It's just, they've been doing it all year. I think it finally starts to catch up with them. I also like the Lions at +3. I like the Texans at +3. I like the Bears at +3. And I like the Chargers at +5 on Sunday Night Football.
Okay.
I'll throw one more. I do like the spot for the Bengals. Joe Burrow's road record covering, it's insane. I mean, it's something I just clued into this year, but he's like 14-3 as the away team covering. I think you look at the Steelers, nice win last week. They're going to get eaten up by T. Higgins in this game, who's just, he's gone off against them in a couple spots. Joe Burrow's thrown for 16 touchdowns and 2 interceptions since that week 1 debacle against Pittsburgh. I think the Bengals 3 points, I don't think they get enough respect there. So like them, kind of like the 49ers too. I think the 49ers are on the verge of just steamrolling a couple teams here and potentially taking the NFC all together. But really like the Bengals mainly as kind of my other bet for this Sunday.
We do have to go, but LaMarca, in about 30 seconds, contractually, I can't go this entire show without even saying the word Patriots. So who is going to win our rematch here between the Pats and Jets in Foxborough on Sunday?
Give me the Jets.
Okay.
I don't know if they'll win, but I like the 3.5 points you can catch with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Jets are real. You know, like you look at a lot of their metrics, they are a legitimate team, specifically on defense. You know, Zach Wilson's still going to make some mistakes. He's still going to, do some things that you wish he wouldn't on a weekly basis. But the defense is legit. They're honestly, both of these teams are built pretty similarly. I just think the Jets are a smidge better.
We'll find out. All right. Thanks to Eamon. Thanks to Daniel. You've got Simland is calling, the Raiders and the Chargers doing battle in about 4 minutes. Make sure you check it out on YouTube and Twitch. We appreciate you hanging out with us. He's LaMarca. Jeff, I'm Kaufman. Remember, the slate comes your way Monday through Friday, right around 5:15. The sweat in the mornings, 11 a.m., including this Sunday coming up to get you ready for the main slate and so much more. So be with us for that. We'll see you later.